Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Folks, welcome back to the show where our swords stay crossed and our signals do too. It is the Crossing Swords pregame show brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case. Let's get our crew in here. It's Gatey35. It's intern Vinny. Folks, gents, it's a Sabres game night and we are on a 3-game winning streak riding into this one against the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, I mean, these past 3 games have been crazy. It's crazy that we can't even see you right now, Maniac. The Sabres team.
I didn't want to say anything.
Can't see me?
No, John Cena right now, black screen. Just Vinny and I right now. But that's okay. The Sabres are hot right now. The fact they stormed into Florida, won both those games, and then really beat up on the Capitals in home ice. I think we talked about a couple days ago how we wanted, it'd be great to split these next couple games against these playoff teams. The fact that the Sabres went 3 for 3 against teams that one are ahead of them in the standings and chasing them in the playoffs, I think is huge for this team moving forward against Columbus.
Yeah, those are big wins. And not to mention, they won that game against the Capitals without Alex Tuch and Rasmus Dahlin. So those are 2 of your maybe top 3 best players, top 4 best players, not in your lineup against a team that's very talented and also trying to fight for a playoff spot. And you really sort of laid it on them at home, which is good. And of course, the Sabres have seemingly not been a great team at home this season for whatever reason. Unless they're wearing the black jerseys, then they're almost unstoppable. So that was a great performance from the Sabres. I was happy, and we'll see if they're able to build off of that momentum against a struggling Blue Jackets team.
Am I here?
Yep.
All right, folks, we are back in the building. And speaking of back in the building, yeah, Sabres obviously back on home ice, got back this past weekend, took down the Capitals. And yeah, they're hot right now. The Sabres team has been streaky all year. So with that said, I mean, I'm almost nervous tonight based on them. Like, shouldn't they be bigger favorites at home against this Blue Jacket squad, boys?
Yeah, I mean, listen to Granato talk about how he trusts his team after that brutal loss to the Leafs last week. I feel like I'm also just scared that the team might be looking past this game. Like I was saying earlier, we wanted them to split this past 3 games against the Florida teams and Washington, and they might look past tonight against the worst team in the league, the Blue Jackets. Again, because you're down Tuch, you're down Dahlin. It might be easy to maybe give up the first one and maybe have things snowball. They're not in the go-ahead tonight, I don't think, so anything can happen.
Yeah, I think the point that I think a lot of people can make about the Sabres winning without Tuch and without Dahlin is that you really see teams win in the NHL a lot in the general sense, even when they're missing some of their best players, just because the NHL is a league where anybody can really realistically beat anybody on any given night. That is very loud. If you're playing hockey, even without your best players, the players in your lineup are still in the league for a reason. So with that said, the Columbus Blue Jackets can come downtown tonight and surprise the Buffalo Sabres, which I think this is what I would call in football maybe a trap game. So you just got to make sure to sort of keep an eye on that and then play smart and play your brand of hockey.
Yeah, we can't get Admiral Akbar in the trap right there. Was that music just pumping? I had it on 10 out of 100.
Yeah, that was maybe the loudest I've ever heard music in my entire life.
The interns are going crazy here on the Crossing Swords pregame show brought to you by Outlet Liquor. But let's get into it. Speaking of getting into it, obviously it's Tuesday. We still have about 48 plus hours till the trade deadline. But you got all kinds of crazy moves being made. You got Pat Kane becoming a Ranger on kind of what people are calling a Taylor Hall 2.0 type deal. And then you got the Sabres edition. You've been talking about him all year, folks. Riley Stillman is a Sabre. Well, I mean, what was your reaction to this, guys?
I mean, initially I was like, who is this guy? I genuinely did not have a great understanding on the player he was. But I think I had to really look myself in the mirror. Even as soon as Kevin Adams was announced, I've been doubting him. And he just kind of proved me wrong, deal after deal, signing after signing. And I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt, not only from me, but I think from Sabres fans, that we should understand that he knows what he's doing and at least give it a shot. Because hearing like some people in Buffalo talk about the player he is and he could fit into Buffalo systems, hey, let's give it a shot. I loved Bloom as a prospect, but we have so many forward prospects. Not all of them can play at the NHL. So, hey, I'm down to listen to Kevin with a Y.
Yeah, I think I was a little, I'm not going to use the word disappointed when this trade happened, but I was a little confused, admittedly. But with that said, I think part of my point in trying to trade for a different defenseman in Jacob Chychrun is that there are a lot of forward prospects in this franchise right now that are just not going to see time at the NHL level for the Buffalo Sabres. So if you can get something for them, well, then fantastic. And as fun as Josh Bloom was, he was doing really well in the OHL this year. You know, they got a defenseman for him that can play hockey for either the Rochester Americans or maybe the Buffalo Sabres. Now, some people certainly said this took them out of the Chychrun sweepstakes, which I don't necessarily know that it did or didn't do that. I, for one, don't want them to be out of the Chychrun sweepstakes. I still think that a player like that is going to help you immensely. But with that said, you know, this is, I guess I can't complain because Kevin did do almost exactly what I was asking him to do and get us defensemen and trade some of the forwards that are never going to play. So I am going to stop before I eventually start complaining and say, I don't want to be a hypocrite, so fair enough.
And don't forget about that Michael Hauser signing yesterday. I mean, I don't even know what's going on there still, but very interesting. Yes, this is what I would say. Since he's been here, you know, almost to a strength, Kevin just like is very like slow to make a move. I don't know if that's because he's waiting out all these other GMs and he's getting, you know, better deals because of that, things like that. There's been rumors that the Sabres have had they've been in on talks about Chychrun and whatnot, but obviously they haven't been anything yet. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. But speaking of which, you know, we might do a pod on this again tomorrow, Thursday. Any official predictions from you guys for what the Sabres will do between now and Friday? As of now, Tuesday?
I think one more, I want to say defenseman being brought in for the Sabres. I think someone maybe with a little more notoriety around the league than Stillman has, but I think it's going to be really hard to bring in a forward, especially when you have some really good young guys in the AHL with Rusek and Kulik, that I'd much rather see them get called up than some guy that's been in the league 5, 6, 7 years. I think it's just got to be a defenseman. We've seen how this team gets, especially when they went on the 8-game skid at the start of the year, if they don't have the defenseman on the team that they need. So maybe get one more before Friday, and hopefully that's, you know, I would love that to be Chychrun, but again, there's some other options out there that I think the Sabres could really benefit from.
Yeah, I think Chychrun is inevitably going to go to a team that just like is, maybe it's not like an immediate threat to the Sabres, but I can see him going to a place like Winnipeg or something, like just some random team. And it's probably with a deal that a lot of Sabres fans will go like, why didn't we just do that? And then there'll be a certain amount that are like, well, I'm glad we didn't give up that much. And that's the thing is, I mean, we can reference Jeremy White's trade deadline chart that he posts every year on Twitter. It's like, did the player get traded to your team? Good deal. Did the player get traded to any other team? Well, I'm glad we didn't give up that much, right? So I think what I think the Sabres are going to do is very little. I think it's going to be a very unexciting trade deadline. Maybe we'll move like a 4th-round pick for like another fringe NHL defenseman. You know, I guess if Dahlin doesn't play again on Thursday night, like I guess depending, they know more about his injury than we do, obviously. So maybe if they're looking at him being out maybe another week, they go, well, see how this panned out for us. We got to make sure we have other defensemen to step into the lineup. And obviously Tuck being out for probably the better part of the next 2 weeks, if not longer than that, certainly puts us in a compromising position at forward if Quinn doesn't continue to, you know, have, I'll call it beginner's luck on that top line.
Beginner's luck? How dare you? He was moving on roller skates out there. That was probably the best thing from Sunday, was seeing the way he fit into that line,
right?
Despite a lot of worries. So with that said, I'd rather assume that that's going to continue. Who else do we need? Is it Paterka that's really the wild card, and whether we're going to be able to continue that depth scoring then?
The Sabres depth scoring has just been hit or miss no matter what line it has been. And you can see the game against the Capitals, you get all 4 lines scoring. The floodgates are wide open. But I think if Sabres can get Paterka really going, the Sabres are going to be a really hard team to beat. And, it could be a hard team to get out in the playoffs. I wouldn't want to face them if they get 2-3 lines scoring like consistently.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason I want Chychrun so much is because he just adds like depth. I'll call any defenseman that gets points outside of Rasmus Dahlin depth scoring, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's why I think he's so valuable to us. I know he's got injury history. My counterpoint to that is he's not going to be playing number 1 defenseman minutes with the Buffalo Sabres, so that gives him more time to take care of his body and is not exerting as much on a nightly basis, and he can contribute to us offensively. He's not a defensive defenseman, but the Sabres are not a team that really – they're going to win games 6-4, and that's fine with me. The reality of the situation is if Dahlin gets hurt and then another defenseman gets hurt inside your top 4 – then you're running into the issue of Jacob Bryson is playing top 4 minutes, and he is a liability defensively, and we can't have that. So I think the depth scoring certainly can be helped with the acquisition of a certain defenseman at the trade deadline, but I'm looking at people like Casey Middlestat and Olofsson to contribute in the latter parts of the year to increase their value. They're not going to get traded, but they might want to make some teams regret not calling the Sabres about them. And, we'll see if the Sabres do to maybe add or not add to anybody below them.
Yeah. Speaking of adding, Anderson expected in net tonight. Are you guys surprised by that at all?
Based on his last game, I would say no. I'd say if we had this conversation a week or so ago and you told me just who was in net, not the outcomes, I might be a little shocked by it, but UPL played the other night. Give Anderson, he's got, the hot hand. That's what Granato said he's going to do the rest of the year. I'm glad he's sticking to what he's saying. It's not just we're going to ride a UPL and doesn't matter what. So let's see Anderson go again, and let's all say a prayer for his hips and that they can hold up because –
Come on, Shakira. Hips don't lie.
Wise words.
Yeah, look, I'm in a position where I don't necessarily want to see Craig start a lot of games in the feeling that I feel like he could hurt him, Like I don't want the guy to be in pain. But if he's not in pain and he's feeling good, he is statistically our best goaltender. And I think on any given night, he probably gives us the best chance to win. With that said, I am maybe slightly surprised by this, especially with the opponent being Columbus. Columbus is not really a team. Their goal differential is pretty low this year. Obviously, they have like the worst record in the NHL. So with that said, I think this might have been a good game to try to get Comrie's confidence back up. But you can take a look at this from another perspective and say, this is a bad team. We've already strung a couple wins together. We can't afford to lose a game to this team and possibly lose the momentum we've just gained with other good teams on the horizon. So I think maybe you're going into this game putting maybe your most confident and consistent goaltender in between the pipes, thinking he can help us maybe more than a goalie that we're just trying to get on the roll would.
And like you said, it could be a look-ahead spot for the Sabres. So who would you prefer in a look-ahead spot, the veteran or, a couple of younger guys? So very interesting there. Well, hey, we are just moments away from puck drop at KeyBank Center, Columbus Blue Jackets, Buffalo Sabres. Gatesy, what do you got for us?
I feel like all signs point to this being another high-scoring Sabres game, but this team just loves to just prove me wrong in what I think is going to happen. I think maybe a 3-2 Sabres win, close game, low scoring. Anderson plays well, some depth scoring here and there, but I think a close, low scoring game is what's on the horizon tonight.
So I don't know. We don't have the Crossing Swords podcast does not have a official sportsbook partner, do we?
No.
Okay, so I'll go out and say I saw that the over-under was set at 7 even on FanDuel.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go with Gatesy. Right now, I like the under on that. I just feel like Columbus is a team that's not going to let us just score a bunch of goals, or we might do what we did a couple weeks back and just try to do too much, have some costly turnovers. With that said, I have a real bad feeling about this game, just being like the reality check that some Sabres fans need after sort of giving a thrashing to the Capitals. I'm going to still take the under, but I'm going to give the Columbus Blue Jackets a 5-1 victory. I think the Sabres are going to lay an egg for some reason tonight, and then sort of put us back in the dumpster, make us question everything we know, and then come out with a big win again on Thursday. I just have a weird feeling about today, and then about maybe bounce back later this week. They just like to keep us on our toes. Yeah, Rick's not too happy with
5-1.
But look,
5-1.
That's the prediction. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. If the Sabres win 8-2, I'll be thrilled.
I think the Sabres come out with a lackluster effort that they were due for. Like you guys said, I think it is a letdown spot. I think they enter the third period down 2-1. They come back, tie it up, win it in overtime. Sabres win tonight 3-2. Under, but it's not the prettiest game, but it's 2 points, and that's all you can ask for. And that's all we can ask for here on the Crossing Swords pregame show. The show where, sometimes our wires get crossed, sometimes our music comes through too loudly, but our swords always are. Make sure you're following Gatesy35. Make sure you're following B Cristiano 3 and Cross Swords Pod. Let's go get a win, and let's have it be all about our favorite 3 words. Let's go Sabres.